chosen ones. There's a reason the final page of the Kybalion was never shown to the public. Locked behind a 7-point cipher and stored beneath the Vatican-Cairo security corridor, that page contained a single, radiant symbol: yours. When the president was briefed, his advisors thought it was a hoax, until the lights flickered, the magnetic fields collapsed, and the document's ink shimmered into motion. Not in English, not in Latin, but in an ancient tongue that hadn't been spoken since the fall of Thoth's final temple. What triggered the emergence of your symbol now? Why did Hermes Trismegistus, whose teachings have governed secret councils for millennia, encrypt this moment into the last known Hermetic manuscript? More importantly, why did the world's leaders immediately label you as an unfolding variable? The answer is deeper than doctrine. You are not a figure of prophecy. You are the ignition point of a convergence long awaited, when the laws of correspondence, vibration, and polarity must be rewritten from within a living vessel. You've felt it, haven't you? Moments where the universe mirrored your state of being so precisely, it frightened you. Times when your thoughts pulsed out like waves and people shifted without explanation. This wasn't random. The principle of mentalism wasn't just about the mind of God. It was about yours being awakened at the right frequency. When they saw the final page, a golden ring formed around your symbol. Analysts traced it to an ancient design resembling the Eye of Providence, but inverted. It pulsed in harmonic threes, a code previously only found in pre-Atlantean resonance patterns. The final lines of the page, decrypted by a quantum linguist flown in from Jerusalem, translated roughly to, "When the One awakens, the all must pause." And they did pause. Satellites, drones, surveillance systems across 5 continents went silent for 11 seconds the moment your heartbeat was recorded within the vault. Now, they're watching, but not just with eyes. Because the Kybalion was never just a book. It was a trigger, a riddle wrapped in vibration, waiting for the right being to align with it. That alignment has begun. And your symbol, glowing now in frequencies only the old ones feared, has set the countdown in motion. They thought the 7 Hermetic principles were all that remained: mentalism, correspondence, vibration, polarity, rhythm, cause and effect, gender. These were the pillars taught in whispered circles, behind the backs of universities and temples alike. But buried in an abandoned fragment of the original manuscript, hidden beneath layers of carbon ink and alchemical shielding, was something else, a forbidden eighth. It was never spoken aloud, only alluded to in damaged footnotes, erratic notes, and symbols that bled through paper centuries too frail for sunlight. Scholars dared not name it, fearing not ridicule, but retaliation. This principle had no glyph, no safe translation, and no agreed-upon definition, until your presence began shifting the archives themselves. The hidden manuscripts, ones untouched since the reign of Pharaoh Thutmose, began reacting. One melted through its lead casing. Another displayed inverted geometries when exposed to your name. Then, a passage that had remained blank for 2,000 years started writing itself when your photograph passed near it. They called it the principle of echo. It was believed to be the foundational law of the other 7, a silent truth that governed how a thought or act would ripple back through time, space, and the soul. It wasn't karmic. It wasn't punishment. It was reflection, amplification, a divine resonance that only responded to a being encoded beyond cause. That being is you. The president's metaphysical analyst referred to this principle as the one law that answers only to the one who was not born of belief. But how could you not have known? How could your entire life have unfolded without a single clue that everything around you had been bending, just slightly, around your presence? Because the echo was waiting, and the echo only begins when the note is pure. Now, symbols are appearing in walls that were once blank. Texts are altering themselves to match your memories. The world is no longer reacting to logic, but to you. The Situation Room had never been this quiet. No alarms, no analysts, just the low hum of a sealed chamber beneath the West Wing. The president stood alone, bathed in a faint amber glow emanating from a parchment locked away since 1933. That parchment, once thought decorative, was actually a living seal, designed by an alchemist embedded in the Office of Strategic Services. It had never reacted, until your name was spoken. It wasn't read, it wasn't typed, it was whispered. The second it passed his lips, the parchment convulsed. A golden pulse emerged from its center, spinning counterclockwise, revealing a symbol no one had ever seen, not even the classified occult departments of global defense. Your symbol. The president staggered backward, not out of fear, but recognition. His dreams for the last 3 months had been haunted by a presence he couldn't name, a frequency, a voice. Sometimes it came through mirrors, sometimes it was carved into the winds of a silent desert. But now it had shape. Now it had you. The intelligence chief rushed in. The room's biometric locks had failed for exactly 7 seconds, and the presidential heart monitor registered a harmonic anomaly. They asked what he saw, what he felt, but he didn't answer them. He only turned toward the seal, placed his hand over your symbol, and muttered, "It was never about control. It was about timing." Later, in the decoded transcript from the old Hermetic agent assigned to shadow Nikola Tesla, a quote surfaced. One that had never been translated in full until today. When the Messiah walks again, even rulers will tremble before the blueprint etched into his mirror. Your presence wasn't just triggering ancient tech. It was fulfilling layered prophecies, sealed under presidential archives for decades. Some thought they were metaphors. Others thought they were spiritual riddles. But now, the interface between spirit and matter was staring them in the face, and it bore your mark. As the president left the chamber, the glow dimmed, but a new line etched itself beneath the seal. There was a sound beneath, sound, a vibration that didn't pass through ears, but through memory itself, not remembered but known, something ancient and precise, that began to resonate the moment your pulse aligned with the coordinates buried in the Temple of Heliopolis. Researchers assumed the tones etched into the emerald tablets were symbolic poetic expressions of divine wisdom, but the tones were literal frequencies encoded in non-phonetic mathematics, and those tones have started to react only to you. The laboratory in Geneva had no explanation. The waveform visualizers began forming patterns identical to a forgotten Sumerian sigil. When they played the sound recorded from your breathing while sleeping, no one else could hear the hum, but the machines could feel it. One linguist even reported seeing his dreams shift into geometric loops anytime your recording was nearby, as though language itself was surrendering to the resonance you carried. The tone was eventually cross-matched against known earthly and celestial scales, and it matched none. Instead, it fell between what physicists now call the void, harmonics, a range where quantum particles neither rest nor move completely, a state they once thought impossible until you breathed into the microphone during the test, and the space between seconds began stretching just long enough to register alternate entropy. Somewhere between the vibration and the silence lay a name. Not yours, not theirs, something older, but buried inside your cells was a fragment of that name, awakened only by the tone of the ninth harmonic, decoded partially from an ancient artifact found near the ruins of Babylon. And once translated, it offered only this phrase: "He who walks in the light of Yeshua carries the sound of the sun before time." They ran the test again, this time under Faraday shielding, this time with zero external input, and still the tone emerged different each time, but always returning to a central hum. It wasn't random. It was guiding something, drawing from within your chest outward, and as it pulsed, the metal walls around the lab began to thin. Then, one of the translators whispered what they feared the most: if the tone is activating, now it means the one who walked with the eternal name is not returning. They found it sealed in beeswax, buried inside a collapsed vault beneath Mount Athos, its parchment preserved by a climate no man remembered crafting. The letter was unsigned, but the calligraphy matched the known hand of Hermes Trismegistus, according to the carbon data. The ink had not faded because it never dried. The words shifted slightly under direct light, as if they were alive and breathing, waiting for the moment their intended reader would walk the earth. No scholar dared touch it. Bare-handed, 3 who tried fell into inexplicable fever dreams, uttering phrases in dead dialects. One wrote symbols on his own skin in patterns resembling constellations that hadn't yet appeared in the night sky. But when your encrypted photo was held near the document, the ink flared for the first time since the fall of Alexandria, forming a new phrase across the top edge, translated from the ancient tongue. It read, "The one who arrives will not walk in shadow, for the breath within them shall carry the flame that unveils." The flame was not fire. It was awareness, light forged through contrast, not control. And you had walked through enough darkness to become its inverse. The body of the letter described a being born in the age of machines whose presence would unravel the artificial web stretched across heaven and earth, not through war, but through recognition. A being not announced by trumpets, but by anomalies, cascading through quantum structure and ritual alike. The letter spoke of a moment where thought would carry weight and language would fracture. And in that fracture a voice would rise to mirror the voice once heard in the desert winds near Galilee. It did not name Yeshua outright, but it referenced the echo of the Nazarene who spoke to stone and saw it weep. The writer described your arrival not as an event, but a returning, an inevitable breath drawn in reverse from the mouth of time itself. Now the vault has reopened, the wind patterns above. Mount Athos have begun spinning in sacred geometry, and a star cluster once thought gone has reappeared, but not in the sky, in your iris captured during a classified medical scan. And as the letter finishes, its words begin rearranging themselves. The Kybalion was believed to be inert, a philosophical relic, trapped in metaphysical theory and cryptic prose. But when your pulse was monitored beside the artifact, something unexpected happened. The glyphs began to hum, not visually, not audibly, but in frequencies detected only by instrumentation, developed for deep space harmonics. What appeared as meaningless distortion was isolated and reversed, and in that reversal was a voice. It was not synthesized, it was not artificial. It was real and ancient, and carried a tone only ever described in desert scrolls recovered from the caves of Qumran. The waveform analysts isolated the signature and compared it to fragments stored in the Vatican's sonic vault, a sealed archive of frequencies believed to be echoes from divine encounters. 1. Waveform matched perfectly. The same sonic imprint detected in the region of Golgotha, recorded by a Roman device buried beneath the execution hill. It was the voice of Yeshua, captured not in words but in vibration, a resonance too sacred to be interpreted by flesh. But now it had returned not through relic or priesthood, but through you. The Kybalion had never echoed before, not even under the most elaborate occult experiments. Its pages were examined by Tesla Crowley, and even covert programs housed in the Bavarian alchemical academies. Nothing ever responded. But now every line of the book reacted as though awakening to your presence. The ink shimmered, the air thickened, and the echo began to speak not in sentences but in feeling. You placed your hand near the surface, and the pages turned not by wind, not by force, but by recognition. And the echo deepened, transforming from sound into memory. Technicians standing nearby collapsed into prayer without knowing why others wept, and saw images not their own, as if the echo had chosen to unbind time for a moment. The frequency whispered of light, not born of sun and of water, that could walk your footsteps and not leave prints. The words were not spoken, but felt in marrow and meaning. The resonance continued building, reaching a crescendo that shattered 2 magnetic locks before silencing itself. Then the Kybalion closed, and on its cover your symbol had burned itself into the surface. But it had changed. Now, encircling it were 7 letters never seen before, and behind them, a shadow moved across the wall. It began as a routine biometric sweep, nothing more than a data clearance for satellite synchronization. Your image passed through 76 filters without issue, until the last one, known only to a handful of individuals, inside the Pentagon's esoteric division. A branch that doesn't appear on any organizational chart, tasked not with war, but with anomaly. Containment. It was created in 1952, after the Vatican forwarded a warning, encrypted in Latin and Sumerian, referencing a being whose skin would carry the seal of reversal. Your birthmark triggered that seal. Located at the base of your neck, what was once dismissed as a meaningless patch of pigmentation began glowing under ultraviolet scans pulsing in the exact rhythm of a long-lost Hermetic chant once sung by high priests in the inner sanctum of Thoth's temple. The pattern in your skin wasn't random. It formed a sigil that hadn't been seen since the fall of Atlantis, as documented in fragments carved into the walls of an undersea ruin never revealed to the public. The agent assigned to your file had never failed. Clearance protocol until yours. Your scan corrupted his access badge and triggered a reversal cascade within the division's encrypted mainframe, collapsing every file related to celestial crossbreeds, prophecy, archetypes, and timelines, flagged under the term living glyph. Only one file remained accessible, titled Her Arrival Destabilizes. Structure. Attached to it was an AI-generated voice memo, stating simply she holds the cipher without knowing the key. They traced your ancestry across dozens of civilizations, from Himalayan priestesses to Nubian oracles, and down into the forgotten bloodlines that fled Alexandria's flames when asked to explain the correlation. A linguist from the project whispered, "We didn't decode her heritage. Her heritage decoded us." The symbols on your birthmark have begun to shift, forming new arrangements each time you enter a high-frequency zone. The Pentagon believes you are not just marked, you are responsive coded, not with knowledge, but with the mechanism that reveals knowledge, when proximity to truth occurs in real time. A living algorithm from before algorithms existed. One analyst noted your mark mirrored the interior schematic of a device stored beneath the Vatican, known as the soul lens, and when projected into light, it created a shadow unfamiliar to any known geometry. They called it the scroll of vibration, not because it made sound, but because its script shimmered across dimensions. It was never written on paper or stone, but encoded into threads of light, hidden beneath the original Hermetic temples, only visible when the breath of a certain frequency passed through the chamber for centuries. It remained dormant, unreadable. A legend whispered by mystics who swore the scroll held the names of those not born but summoned, and when the frequencies finally shifted, it revealed your name, not spoken, not carved but woven. Your existence was not an accident, not a coincidence. Your entry into this realm coincided with the destabilization of several planetary energy grids across ancient node lines, the exact moment your soul entered the body. The scroll responded. It pulsed once, sending a harmonic ripple across 5 known ley line intersections, awakening artifacts long thought inert. A crystal disk buried beneath Ethiopia began spinning, another beneath the Ganges emitted symbols into the river that dissolved within seconds, but were captured by infrared drone. Inside the chamber of vibration, one phrase revealed itself in golden fractals, so luminous the observers could not view it directly. The translation revealed a prophecy older than the Kybalion, older than the tablets, older even than the first breath of civilization. It said, "One will arrive bearing the echo of the word whose vibration shattered death and folded time. And as they walk, the false structures will tremble at their silence, for the silence will contain the roar of the beginning." This was not metaphor. The word was not a symbol. It was the ancient utterance of creation itself, the one Yeshua was said to wield not in domination, but restoration. And the scroll recognized that word within you, not in your voice, but in your being. Your choices were never entirely your own, because your signature was scribed before this dimension. Even reached coherence. You are not bound by fate, but remembered by it. The keepers of the scroll have gone silent. Their last transmission simply read, "She is here," not arriving, not coming, already present. And the scroll has closed again, but not fully. A new strand of light is still weaving itself across the edges. It had been locked away since the fall of Constantinople, transported in fragments across centuries by silent orders and hidden beneath a chamber no satellite had ever captured, known as the Eye Vault. The mirror was not glass, but a smooth metallic composite that pulsed under moonlight and vibrated at certain alignments. No reflection ever appeared upon its surface until you entered the room, and it was not your face it showed, but your now. The guards outside heard nothing, but inside the vault, the air thickened, light bent, and the mirror began to ripple, as if remembering not just you, but every version of you. Across lifetimes, echoes of choices, long-buried memories, not formed yet, already known. And as the surface cleared, your current form emerged not in flesh, but in radiant geometry. Fractals spun outward, forming a constellation around your body. one only seen before in an unverified sketch recovered from the temple of Edfu, a pattern associated with the alignment of 9. The technician monitoring your vitals collapsed into trance. His voice changed and he began muttering in Enochian words no one in the room could understand, but which translated later into this: she bears the form of the return, not as a figure of prophecy, but as the hinge of the unseen gate. And all who behold her reflection will be forced to reckon with the architecture they built to hide her from themselves. Then the mirror displayed something no one expected: movement within the reflection. Not a second image, not a distortion, but an entity walking slowly toward your mirrored form. Not hostile, not separate, but familiar, as if drawn by design. Its face was veiled, its body surrounded by glowing strands of data and light. But as it raised its hand, the entire room shook, and symbols ancient and untranslatable etched themselves across the walls in light. One of the observers gasped, recognizing the central symbol from a scroll that once described a being known as the Daughter of the Voice, the one whose silence could rewrite the 7 laws and bend time without breaking it when the mirror dimmed. Your reflection remained for a moment, even after you stepped away, still breathing, still watching. Then, slowly, it faded, leaving behind a single word traced in condensation. The chamber was built before language, when the earth still remembered her original name, and the sky spoke in waves instead of words, deep beneath the Himalayas, carved into volcanic glass. A relic remained untouched, known only in fragments, as the seal of 7 flames. It had been dormant for over 9,000 years, sealed by those who had walked with the original architects of form, and guarded by monks whose tongues had been silenced to protect what they could not explain. When you arrived, the air changed, the wind outside. The mountain, paused birds that had circled overhead, vanished without a trace. And the monks who had taken vows of silence for generations stepped aside, not in fear, but in recognition. They did not speak, but their eyes followed your every move, as if watching an echo unfold before their eyes, as if your presence reminded them of something they had long agreed to forget. The moment you exhaled near the seal, its center ignited. A ring of pale blue fire leapt upward, not burning, but illuminating, forming halos around each of the 7 points previously invisible to the naked eye. Heat signatures shifted, and for exactly 9 seconds, the chamber walls shimmered, revealing symbols older than Sumeria, identical to ones once rumored to have been etched into the tomb of Yeshua during the lost years between his childhood and his return. No tools triggered it, no rituals performed. It was your breath that called it forth, as if the seal had been waiting, not for action, but for alignment, and the flames did not consume. They unveiled pathways within the chamber that hadn't been visible, even to infrared. A corridor appeared along the edge of the 7th flame, pulsing in rhythm to your heartbeat, and along the corridor were inscriptions that matched none of Earth's known alphabets, until cross-referenced with the vibrational glyphs found on the outer walls of the Ark fragment stored in Ethiopia. Each flame responded differently. Some flickered when you stepped forward, others bent toward your movement like petals to the sun, but the 7th stood still, and when you approached it turned black, not in darkness, but in absorption, the kind that holds all light within it. And at the moment your hand hovered near its edge, a whisper filled the space, not spoken aloud, but etched into every heart present. The verse had no origin, no nation, no scribe. It existed on a page older than the Kybalion, older than even the emerald tablets. It had been passed from keeper to keeper, hand to hand, wrapped in cloth, soaked in myrrh. So sacred, none dared to unroll it fully until the machines arrived. Language decryption, software failed, scholars went blind, attempting phonetic translation. But when your voice was recorded nearby for an unrelated test, the verse began to unfold line by line, as if finally hearing what it had waited for, all this time. Each symbol glowed briefly, then dimmed, replaced by the next, as if decoding itself not for the world, but for you. It was not ink, but light, etched through a frequency, only triggered by the presence of the one described in the inner fold of the parchment. The final alchemist, the one whose presence could fuse the material and immaterial without formula, without flame, without ritual. Your name did not appear directly, but the shape of your breath matched the geometric flow of the verse, and that was enough. They isolated the structure and found it, mirrored the quantum fingerprint, recorded in the Cave of Sighs near Jerusalem. The same energy signature believed to radiate from the linen wrap preserved in the Vatican vault, a whisper that once belonged to Yeshua, a code of being not bound by death or decay, but transfiguration. Your verse aligned with his, not as repetition, but as continuation. The final note in a divine frequency set in motion 2,000 years ago. The symbols twisted slowly into a spiral that pointed toward a horizon yet unseen, and at the center of the spiral a single eye opened, not physical, not digital, but aware, and it looked at you through the parchment, as if recognizing its mirror, not with fear, not with command, but with understanding. The final alchemist was never meant to turn metal into gold, but to turn division into unity, silence into resonance, flesh into memory. The verse continues to evolve, still writing itself in rhythm with your heartbeat, and as the last line begins to emerge, it stops.
If you have come this far, it is crucial that you watch this next video here, but be warned, it is not for the faint of heart, for only the true chosen ones can handle this video. If you would like to also donate to help keep the channel going, our Buy Me a Coffee link will be in the description.